and then since then you've left Ubisoft, and now you're working at JBS with me.
That's correct, yeah. So I'm currently leading on a project which hasn't been announced yet, and it probably won't be for a little bit, but it will be this year at some point. So watch this space. I always recommend it. Like if anyone wants to work in games at any point, like if you want to work with a group of people, highly recommend like just making a little small game by yourself, at least. Like even if you don't finish it, just get like an understanding of the processes for all of the things.
So I've spoken with some concept artists on Friday. They just were happy to be working on the project, and it's just like that is such a buzz, like something that came out of my brain, and I thought of just by going, I wonder what I would do if I was going to do a game, and then like a few years later, getting people excited to be working on it is just the coolest thing. Off the back of what ChatGPT helped me to make, which was like a marketing plan.
Yeah,
it turns out I need to create content. I mean, I surprise, surprise. Yeah.
Shock. Probably be able to fluidly interrupt each other now.
That's going to be weird. I'm so used to you just being really rude and cutting me off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am no longer the Ubisoft concept artist, Vin Hill. I'm creative director now, which is weird. And I am joined, as ever, by the indie developer, who's also published now, so that doesn't actually make sense. We need a new intro. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello. Yeah, we're just indie devs. No, we're just devs. We're just game developers, because Are we just game developers?
Yeah, I guess so. We're in this weird spot
we're
now.
Just run-of-the-mill, average game developers.
Straight through the middle. That's fine. That's absolutely fine with me. So
yeah, that's easier, isn't it? And so yeah, you're a creative director. What am I then?
I don't know. Whatever you want to be. Make up your own name.
I think I've put director.
Game lead. I don't know. Like everyone's got weird titles. I put myself into that camp just purely because I'm more of the creative side of it.
Yeah.
Like because the game that I'm currently working on, like the original game, is sort of half handled by me on the creative side, and then we've got a lead programmer as well that's sort of focusing on the tech side.
Okay.
So that's why I sort of differentiate that. But like for you yourself, like if you're sort of overlooking everything, then you can just be like director if you want, or lead. I don't know. It's all fun. It's all arbitrary anyway, you know.
Yeah, I guess it is. I don't mind. I don't mind. I guess I don't mind or I don't care. Okay, well, let's start again. So, hi, Vin. You've left Ubisoft and now you're working for this new company.
I have, yeah. Working for a company called JumpButton Studio, which you might have heard of because it's the same company that Chris works for.
Oh, yeah.
I can't help him get a gig.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
Be quiet. I didn't really. Like, you did it all by yourself, to be fair. But yeah, Chris was discovered by the publisher through me. But I didn't introduce Chris. I know it sounds strange, but
it was the publisher from the podcast.
Yeah, weirdly enough. So that the podcast was being done, and the person in question, the CEO of JumpButton, saw Chris's project and got interested in it and contacted me about it. And I was very hands off about it and said, "You need to talk to Chris because I'm obviously biased."
Just did the introductions.
Yeah, I was like, "This is Chris. This is CEO of JumpButton. Like, go sort of thing." And like, I've been mostly hands off from it. So like, I jokingly say I helped you get the job, but I didn't have any involvement for the most part.
Yeah, but then since then, you've then left. That's while you were working at Ubisoft, and then since then you've left Ubisoft, and now you're working at JBS with me.
That's correct, yeah. So I'm currently leading on a project which hasn't been announced yet, and it probably won't be for a little bit, but it will be this year at some point. So watch this space sort of thing. Yeah, but my situation's a little bit different to Chris's because obviously, Chris, you took Focus Find, which was the indie game that you're already working on, and that's what's getting published. Yeah. The same thing isn't happening with me. So I'm not taking Long Gone to JumpButton. Long Gone is still under, like, I'm just doing that myself on the side. That's why progress has been quite slow because like stuff's been pretty crazy. And yeah, so I'm working on a new original game with them rather than bringing in a project which I was already working on. So that's the differences between them. But for the most part, like we are in the same boat now, right? Like we're both leading on projects. It's just a matter of getting those things out the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're both working with other developers. So that's the other difference. Like I was working on Focus Find just by myself for years while it was a way for me to learn code and create a game at the same time. Like the best way to learn is to do so. Well, for me anyway. Right. And so that's what I was doing. Ironically now, all my code is being rewritten and everything's being remade. So everything that I was working on with Focus Find is now being redone with by Matt that works at JumpButton Studios. Yeah,
but a lot of that is going to be, a lot of that original code is going to inform where it's going.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's not. I always hate it when people say, oh, that code was for a waste or whatever. It's not. Like you are getting use out of it.
Yeah.
It's just not directly anymore, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, I don't think.
Yeah, and if I hadn't done Focus Find at all, I wouldn't be in this situation. And if I hadn't done Focus Find at all and somehow was in this situation, I would be so much less aware of the situation. So now that I can come from a place of more understanding when the code does change, and so I understand why things are the way they are, and so it's definitely I always recommend it. Like if anyone wants to work in games at any point, like if you want to work with a group of people, highly recommend like just making a little small game by yourself, at least. Like even if you don't finish it, just get like an understanding of the processes for all of the things that you're working on, because then you'll be able to have that conversation with whoever you need to bring in. Like now I've done a bit of code, like whenever the programmer that's on our project, like whenever he starts talking to me about something, like, yep, I absolutely understand what's happening now. It isn't like I'm not completely lost and being like, oh, yeah, you sort that out sort of thing. Like we can have that conversation back and forth and really figure stuff out, which is really important. So, yeah. Yeah, and even just explaining something that you're not sure of can actually help programmers, I find, because they have programmer brain.
Yeah.
Put things into a different context, which actually is helpful to them. So you can be like, why are you doing this? Because I'm thinking of this problem.
Yeah.
And because they're in their coder language and artists and coders kind of can talk over each other and miss the mark sometime, the more middle ground, the better, because then you can both be on the same page, I've found. So, yeah. And also, working with developers, that's cool. That's new for me.
Yeah, I bet.
So much fun. It's so much fun because they're actually enjoying the project. So I've spoken with some concept artists on Friday. They just were happy to be working on the project. And it's just like, that is such a buzz. Like something that came out of my brain and I thought of just by going, I wonder what I would do if I was going to do a game. And then like a few years later, getting people excited to be working on it is just the coolest thing. It's just great.
Yeah, I love that bit though. Like a lot of people skip over that when they're talking about becoming developers or something, right? Like they always look at the end goal, which is like, I can't wait for millions of people to potentially play the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like they sort of look at that, but there's definitely like a middle ground in there somewhere as well, where the idea comes out of your head and people internally working on the game, like you get really excited about them working on it.
Yeah.
You know, like there's that weird moment. Like, and I used to get this, like even on a bigger scale when I was working at Ubisoft and we had concept art handoffs. Like, and we had whole teams of like 3D artists, like it happened a lot on like Watch Dogs. We had like teams of 200-300 people sat in a room and the art director like stands up on stage. All right, sweet. Like these are going to be the concepts. This is what you guys are going to be working on over the next sort of 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever. And they're just going through concept art and you're sat at the back like, Jesus Christ, I hope that they like it, you know. But it always worked out because they were always pumped like, yeah, I can't wait to work on that. It's going to be sick and stuff. And like they're asking questions about it and dissecting it in like the biggest way. But you always come out of them meetings like really excited about them, like being excited about it. You know what I mean? And that you get such an adrenaline like sort of buzz from that, like just the dopamine hit you get from people being excited about what they're going to be working on. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. It's really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to do more. And you know, and also it just gets better. Like when more people work on the things, the thing gets better. And that's again another thing which is just really new to me that I haven't ever had before. So I'm just enjoying that. Like, it's going to get better.
Yeah, and you're only in the starting stages of it. Like when stuff starts coming back, and you're just like, holy crap, that looks amazing. Like, what? I could never have done that. And you get this like ensemble sort of effect, you know, where everyone's just like piling in and trying to figure stuff out. That for me is like the biggest buzz. Like when you're working on a game, more than anything, is that whole mindset that people just like not automatically get, but they naturally gain this understanding. It's like, okay, we are a team and we are trying to figure this out. And like egos get put aside and all of that sort of stuff. And it's just, let's figure this out and make it cool. It's really, really exciting when that starts to happen. And you'll see that pretty soon. And you already are seeing glimpses of it. But when you start seeing stuff come in, you actually see that excitement pay off. Like that's the ultimate. That's where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, I know. I actually can't wait to when I start seeing other things. And it's actually weird because when I first started, I couldn't really picture that as being a good thing. I would see that as like a failure in myself. Like I wasn't a good enough artist to like do it by myself, or I wasn't like a good enough coder to code the best mechanics. But now I'm totally not like that at all. And I'm just like, get the best people to do the best things, and then like, smush it together, and it makes the coolest thing. Like it's like a Power Ranger.
It's the ensemble effect, right?
The ensemble.
Like yeah. And it's great. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a fascinating thing. Like not being so attached to it almost, right? Like you've got to like let it go in the lead a little bit, so you can stretch its legs, sort of thing. And it's very it's a hard thing to get over, but once you are over it, it's just that's where the magic happens, as they say.
Yeah, and it's more enjoyable than just having your own little project. It's like, I'm doing my own little project. I mean, that's cool in itself. And I still am looking at other projects. We kind of talked about this in the pre-show, but I'm kind of doing side projects as well. I'm kind of not, and it's a good idea not to. And if they are, they shouldn't be anything to do with the games.
I mean, we can go over this real quick, but like the idea is that if you sort of align your side projects with a little bit too much with your main sort of job, then it can sort of merge into just you working all the time, which can lead to burnout and stuff. So that's the sort of the cautionary tale which I would put forward. Like you've got to not completely avoid it, because it's going to be impossible to avoid it. Like if you're passionate about making games, you're going to want to make games on the side as well. It's just you got to recognize that there should be a balancer. Otherwise, you'll kick yourself for it later on. I promise you. Yeah,
and kind of like investing, where there should be no you could drop it and you shouldn't lose anything other than the skills and experience and knowledge that you've gained. Like you shouldn't bank on it to make you money. You shouldn't bank on it to do well or be acclaimed or be any good. It just should be an outlet, like a release valve almost, like, you know, to blow off some steam, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do something else creatively. We talked about this before. Like I'm coming to the end of the narrative stage, rewriting the narrative for Focus Find, and I found myself not wanting to do any sort of creative writing. But I feel that once I've finished doing the narrative in my day job, that might leave a space open for me to do sort of creative writing in the evening. Yeah, that's my hope. And we talked about music. I'll do a bit of music, but that could be too closely related to the video game, because my plan is to do some music for the video game if I can. So it's a balancing act.
It's very much a balancing act, and you'll find it over time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like you will want to do music. You will want to do some creative writing on the side. It's just a matter of finding the right time to do it, because like if you are going to make music, do it now while you're not making music on the game yet.
Yeah.
You know, but the second that you start making music on the game, you should stop doing it in your spare time. You know what I mean? Like it's just finding weird stuff like that. Like when I was doing concept art, I was learning how to code because it was so different from everything that I was doing. Like it was nothing visual. It was just, it was tickling a different part of my brain that I wasn't sort of used to. So it never felt like work. It felt like it was exciting. It was actually a hobby and I was figuring something out. Same thing for creative writing. Never really interacted with concept art that much, so it was always fun to do that. So it's always good to like sort of like, because those skills do come in handy for making games as well. Eventually, it's just I'm not doing them at the same time. So you'll figure it out though, man.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. But yeah, so far I'm having a great time, really enjoying it. It's been an absolute pleasure to do it full time.
Sweet.
So it feels like it's the right move for sure. It's just marketing right now. That's what I'm focusing on. I use ChatGPT.
How's that going?
I didn't hire a marketing manager to figure out a marketing plan. But off the back of what ChatGPT helped me to make, which was like a marketing plan, it turns out I need to create content I mean, I surprise, surprise, yeah. Shocks, yeah. So I've got to be on social media and I've got to be contacting the right people. And so ChatGPT has helped me figure that what I need to do. But it's a tool, so it's helped me figure out what I need to do. Well done, ChatGPT. It's not going to help me create the content. It's not going to help me contact the people I need to contact. So that's why I might be looking at marketing resources like a company or like a person or a freelancer or some sort of other entity that can help Focus Find with its marketing.
Well, that's the thing about AI, I find, is that it's always a good starting point. Kind of look at it as like a Google search engine almost, but with a little bit more intelligence, right?
Yeah, it's like when Ask Jeeves came out. For those of you that are old enough to remember, you would ask Jeeves a question and it was just a search engine, but you tended to pose the results as a question.
Right.
And its thing that was really clever was that it can turn a question into a list of results that is scrubbed from the internet. How clever is that? Yeah. And it's now come full circle where actually Jeeves...
It's kind of what ChatGPT is doing.
It's just the same, except
right.
it has some logic built in. So that's the difference. So it does feel like you actually are talking to a person.
Yeah.
Which is good. So yeah, I've got my plan, and I just need to do it. So I'm gonna have to. So unfortunately, if any of you follow my social media, I'm probably going to be talking about myself a lot more on my social media. Unfortunately, apologies. Like I'm going to talk about neurodivergent, myself being neurodivergent, anxiety disorder, dyslexia, mental health, because the game's about mental health.
Well, you can always make like a company handle instead and do it there. You know, like you don't have to make it. I mean, you can make like an acrylic pixel, like Twitter handle and YouTube channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you've already got a YouTube channel, but I mean, you can make social networks where you're talking about that stuff, so you're not annoying.
So I'm not annoying the followers that just like me as a person.
Yeah, sure.
Keep my personal one separate. Yeah, because I've created an Instagram, which is just the games, and I've created because I want to keep my the pictures of my kids and stuff and my dinner separate.
Sure.
And Facebook, I'm not really doing Facebook, but yeah, LinkedIn. I've created a LinkedIn, like an acrylic pixel LinkedIn company page, so I can just do all that, and then people that just are friends with me socially through my LinkedIn network, they don't have to be bombarded with all that marketing stuff, because they'll just be hearing stuff that they already know. Like you already know this stuff about me. Like me telling you that is
defeats the purpose.
Yeah. But I'm not trying to market to you. I'm trying to market to the people that would be interested in the fact that I am this and I am that. And it's really weird, I guess, because I'm quite a, introvert. It's weird for me to think that what's going to sell my game is telling people about who I am. That just doesn't make sense. But I guess if I thought about it and took myself out of the situation, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. People want to know why you do what you do. They don't really care about the product. People tend to want to know why. And in a lot of the cases when they're buying a game, they don't necessarily know. They want to know why some developers made the game. They want to know what the game's about. But the game is about the people making the game. I'm kind of
no, I know what you're saying. So like there's this weird moment where this is like specifically a thing about indie devs. Like it's not really like a AAA thing whatsoever, but like in the indie dev scene, like the people that are following you while you're making the game, they want to know more about you and the process of why the game's getting made and stuff like that. Becomes a bit more personal with those guys.
Yeah.
Second that the game is out and it gets detached from you at that point, and then you don't have to, like the people that are buying it after the fact, they're sort of just people that are floating by it and like, that looks cool, I'm going to buy it. Yeah. And then they just go, whatever. Like they don't care about like how it was made. They just want to play the game.
Yeah.
So they're two very, very different audiences that you've got to sort of think about and cater to at the same time. And it's a weird dynamic that you have to deal with, but it's weird.
Like building a community and getting the super fans of something that they don't even have yet is very odd, because I've never wanted to do that before. So it's trying to tap into a part of people that I don't recognize in myself.
Yeah.
But I've always been like a creator and a maker and a thinker and a doer rather than a fan of things. I mean, I'm a fan of some things, but just not to the extent of like joining communities, like Discord servers and things. Like I've joined up, but it's too much like hard work for me to like keep up with it, like read it and interact with people. It's hard. But this is why I'm not a marketer. Like marketing is not my natural wheelhouse at all. So it's going to be a skill. It's going to be a skill I need to learn and something I need to get good at and I need to do every day. I need to do one social media post every day.
I mean, you could dedicate a day to it and just line them all up and then set them on timers to go off. And then you can just dedicate a day, get out of the way. Like, you could start off Monday mornings like that. Like, just do the first few hours, just, all right, figure out the marketing post for this week. What did I work on last week? What can I show off? Blah, blah, blah. And then just chip out all the posts. And you can line them up as well across multiple things. So there's a bunch of different platforms now that you can sort of hook up like all of your social media platforms to, like TikTok, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. Like if you're doing a video, like you upload it once and then that program will like fire it out across all of the different platforms.
That's quite good.
Then you can do it like if you just sit there in the morning for like a few hours, then you'll be able to sort of get them all ticking out for the rest of the week. And then you'll just be slowly generating views without actually doing the work and having to worry about it. Like you just get out of the way in one day and that's it.
Yeah. I need to research things that can do that, I think.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because I was thinking, I don't have to go on TikTok and then Instagram and then LinkedIn and then Twitter.
No,
so if I can just...
You absolutely should not do that. There's platforms to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll probably be able to get that into your budget as well. Like if they do cost money, which they probably do. But yeah.
Yeah. I think Twitter is professional enough already that it is just like a professional thing. Does that make sense? Or
it's different audiences. Yeah, it's hard, man. There's different audiences for different folks. There are different platforms for different folks. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's really tough. Like, and it really depends on the game as well, right?
Yeah.
Like all of my long gone stuff like that was kicking off on Twitter, and I thought, wow, 6,000 likes is nuts, right? Like that's because that is a lot on Twitter.
Yeah.
That is like quote unquote, as they say, viral. But then you go onto TikTok and then something gets like 2 million views and you're like, whoa, all right, that is it's just on a different level. Like we're talking hundreds of thousands of likes and it's just a different beast. And so clearly the long gone stuff fits into like the TikTok sort of crowd. So I know like what sort of people are going to buy this game now. Yeah. Right. And for you, you might find more success on Twitter than you would TikTok or like on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like where do people? I know it sounds like creepy and weird, but like where are people going to be interested in like the processes of grief and stuff like that? Like you got to think about that. Like it's a weird thing, not to like capitalize them on or anything like that. It's just a matter of
finding the audience, like
finding the audience. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to figure out, man.
Yeah. I think that opportunities for marketing, like organizations and charities and things, I think LinkedIn might be a good way to go.
Yeah, without doubt. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Yeah. So I'm going to try that. Well, basically, my plan is cast a wide net, and exactly what you did, cast a wide net. Your net was 2, but for example, for argument's sake, you did Twitter and then you did TikTok. I'm going to cast a wide net, so I'm doing Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm not going to do Facebook.
It's too enclosed anyway.
Yeah. So I'm going to do Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter, and then see what sticks. And then I might drop one or the other, or just not post on one or the other, and see where get the most engagements, most likes, and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It isn't like a figured out art. You know what I mean? Like it's different for every project and every game.
Yeah.
That's why it's difficult to like have like a clear strategy for this sort of stuff. You can sort of target people as you go, but I kind of feel like with indie anyway, like you really have to poke at it, and just
chip away.
Like, okay, let's try over there, and let's try over there, and let's try over there, let's try over there.
Little and often. Don't pay for a big trailer or anything like that.
Right.
Just little and often and see what lands. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's completely different to AAA, right? Because AAA are just like, they have the events, they have the trailers, they have the moments where people have got eyes on, ready to look at it and accept it, whereas indie don't have that privilege for the most part. So we've got to be a bit more surgical about it. So it's a bizarre sort of problem to sort of figure out, but here we are.
But it's interesting, and it's not the first time I've had to do something that is not I'm naturally comfortable with. I've had
Sure.
a whole, decade of jobs where it's not been my natural fit, and I seem to have done okay at those. So,
sure, I think a lot of it is to do with like adapting and overcoming, and sort of having that mindset of just being like, let's figure it out. Like a lot of indie is that. A lot of games development is that for the most part. It's just
problem solving.
Yeah.
Creative problem solving.
And that's what makes this so fun. You know what I mean? Like it's one big puzzle that we're trying to figure out here. And it's just that is the fun part of it. And when the game gets released, if people enjoy it, then sweet. But that's not why I'm in it. I'm in it just to solve them problems and really figure out that puzzle, because it's a bunch of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm enjoying that aspect to it, and that's probably the healthiest way to find the enjoying it. Yeah. Speaking of big AAA marketing pushes, Forspoken had a big AAA marketing push. And
it didn't work out.
It didn't really work out, did it?
No.
So in terms of game news, we're going to talk about Luminous Productions folding into Square Enix. Last was TV show, because we can't not talk about it. We try to stick to video games here, but it's a bit special. And then also the sad news about Lance Reddick passing away, age 60. We'll go back to the Luminous Productions. Yeah, they did Forspoken. It was critically slammed, I'd say. Is probably quite the safest way to say it.
It bombed.
Slammed. It bombed.
Yeah, it's hard to
selling good. It's not selling bad, but it's not selling to the extent that I think they were expecting, based on the marketing spend.
Yeah,
because it was in all they did like trailers that I saw several times, and I must have spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah, and it comes from a third-party publisher as well, like Square Enix. They don't have the privilege of being on the stages for. But I mean, saying that, they did sign an exclusive deal with PlayStation, so PlayStation would have like onboarded that. So I'd probably take that back. But yeah, regardless, that's the thing. Like the game itself, the problem that the game had was it looked awesome. Like in terms of like its visuals and stuff.
It looked like the next big AAA game. It looked like the next Horizon, didn't it? I thought.
Yeah, and like it came out and people were just like, yeah, this feels like a game from 15 years ago. It just does not feel good. Like it's like the narrative's all over the place. The design doesn't feel great. Like the open world is boring. It's a lot of the similar comments like across the board as well. Like it wasn't just like one review. It was all of them. Like they were pretty consistent in the criticisms that they had for it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, brutal. And I think that just absolutely nailed it. And it kind of killed it.
I even found out something new the other day where it was like the protagonist. I didn't actually play the game, so we shouldn't really judge, but I think we're just regurgitating what we've heard. So I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like it is so consistent that we won't have to play it at this point, because it's kind of like, all right, there's so many people.
Yeah.
If people are saying that much about it, like unfettered as well, like after the game comes out and players are all saying the same thing, like that can become an echo chamber. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you've got reviewers that had the game before it came out, that were all saying the same thing in separate avenues, then you've got to, like, it's hard to ignore that, man. You can't. Yeah.
One of the narrative things that I heard was that the protagonist was like trying to save up money to leave, and she lived in like New York City, and she was literally like getting cash and putting it in a mattress or something, like like hoarding money and putting it in a house.
As it gets. Yeah.
And then there's like a big fire, and all the money goes into the fire.
Of course.
And it's just like, I mean, I can understand a portal to another universe that doesn't make any sense, but that just doesn't sound. But then again, what the hell has it got to do with the portal opening up? Like nothing. I was just like, that's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's like a 90s cartoon sort of thing. But also it ties into what I thought, and I think the game is for teenagers, like young teenagers that like like Saturday evening comedy, like with laugh tracks.
This is the thing, right? No matter how badly a game gets reviewed, there is always an audience for it. There's going to be people out there right now that think this is the greatest game of all time. Yeah, and that, like, more power to them. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, if
it's true to them. If they think it's true, it's true. Yeah,
absolutely. So like I still respect those people, obviously. Like it's like I get it, but we're just obviously talking about like the general consensus.
Yeah, and they finished the game, and that just deserves a certain amount of respect anyway.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can be critical about certain things like narrative choices. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw the previews. Like there's some non-pretty lines in there, that's for sure.
And the dialogue, yeah.
It's just bad translation, I think. Like they probably just had a Japanese team working on it, and then they had like 2 translators that sat there trying to translate this into like 20 different languages or something. Like you gotta, yeah, like how much time did they actually get given? That's what I would want to know.
Yeah. What the consequence of potentially those actions is that they're being the Luminous Productions is like closing.
Yeah,
but they're not using those words. They're folding in the team into Square Enix. So Luminous Productions will be no more, and the people will be folded into Square Enix.
Yeah, the only thing I hope is that nobody lost their job, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
that's what
inevitably someone's lost a job somewhere in that transaction, in that transfer. Don't get me wrong, but I hope it's not too many people, and I hope that they rebound from it. Yeah, it sucks. Like it's brutal, but that's how brutal the video games industry is, unfortunately. Like you put out a bad game like that, such a high risk, it's going to have consequences, I guess.
So say you come in at the last sort of quarter of that dev cycle.
Yeah.
You can see what the game is. In my head, I know nothing about the AAA space, but
sure,
it seemed like their marketing team marketed it to be when it was on all the, the PlayStation, was it forwards or PlayStation
State of Play.
State of Plays. When we saw it, it was marketed as if it was going to be the next AAA game. If they had marketed it to be like, this is a game for like young teenagers, and then gone down that narrative route, like this is the game for young teenagers that like corny dialogue type stuff, like
that is the problem.
Jokes.
It wasn't that though. They weren't intentionally going for that. They just got it as a byproduct by accident. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with it. Like if you go all in on that cheesy, corny, like teenagery stuff, you get a game like Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah,
that's what happens. And it's intentional. And you know your audience, and you're like, okay, if you're into this, and you saw the trailer, and it was shadow dropped as well, which is great, and sadly did better sales than Forspoken.
Yeah, sold more,
which is kind of bananas, but it is what it is. Like you look at Hi-Fi Rush, you know exactly what you're getting into, you know what you're getting, but
by looking at it for a few seconds. And Forspoken, unfortunately, a lot of us were fooled, or like there was this by the mechanics of the game and the traversal and the gorgeous, they excelled in some ways.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
It looked beautiful.
I don't think it was like done maliciously though. I think it was very much like unintentional, like in terms of they wanted it to be this big open world. They wanted it to be AAA. They wanted the writing to be great. They wanted like emotional hits. They wanted like an interesting main character. That's what they were going for. Right. They just didn't stick the landing on these things. And what ends up happening is it's that when like a movie is so bad it's good.
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of thing that you get. And so the only reason why we think it's cheesy, the only reason why we think it's probably for teenagers rather than for adults, because they just didn't do a great job on the writing, right? So it's kind of like this weird juxtaposition that we have to constantly think about in the video games industry. It's like, okay, when does it become cheese? There's this weird line.
Does bad become cheese?
Yeah, exactly.
The other end, like starts getting good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we see it all the time in video games, and even beloved video games, we see it all the time. And time is like
Uncharted. They're very cheesy dialogue.
Right. I mean, go and look at the original opening to Resident Evil, like on the PlayStation 1, and tell me that's not like so you could cut it with a cheese. It's it's not even cheese. It's camp. Like it's gone beyond of what like cheese is. It's really bad. Like it's so bad it's funny, and like it's endearing, and like it's definitely a game of its time, and all that. Like all of that is true, but it's still cheesy as hell. And I think Forspoken absolutely falls into that, which is like I could see what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And God love them, they tried, but they just didn't they just couldn't stick the landing, unfortunately. Maybe they didn't have time, maybe they didn't have the budget, maybe they just didn't have the talent in the studio at the time, maybe they were getting shifted off onto Final Fantasy 16. Could be anything. Could be a myriad of things that we don't know about, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt in that respect. But yeah, man, like if it's just if it smells like cheese, then it's probably just
probably cheese.
It's probably cheese. You know, that's it.
I don't think that kind of works, but
I know. But it's my point is like it's not intentional. You know what I mean? Like they weren't. I don't think they were going for that. I think they were looking at games like Spider-Man for the most part. I think that was their ultimate sort of inspiration for Forspoken.
Yeah,
and I think they were like, yeah, what if we have these quips and like, there's these couple of characters that are talking to each other and they fly around this, but we haven't got a city. Crap, what can we do? Oh, well, we've got like Final Fantasy sort of style of environments. We can do that. Set in New York, you know what I mean? Like there's all this sort of stuff, which is kind of bunch of developers at Square Enix were playing Spider-Man way too much one week, and that's what came out.
And that's
you know
what's
what I mean?
out, yeah.
And it's just unfortunately just not. Yeah, it just didn't stick. Unfortunately,
well, here's a question. Maybe that's a perfect example of a media where Spider-Man is so ingrained in popular culture that everyone is already naturally aware, just through natural like percolation and osmosis, that about the tropes of Spider-Man, and so therefore they know what to expect. And if you recreate certain characteristics of Spider-Man, you end up with something that's bad. If you take away all of that historic context and you just present a character like Spider-Man, like Flyman or something, if Flyman came along and just wore a crazy suit, but you didn't know about Spider-Man, and you're just like, if goes on walls, really cheesy dialogue, that works for, you know, the 40s and the 50s. It doesn't really work in modern day.
Yeah, and that's nuts, right?
Do something like that
happens all the time as well. Like people try and recreate something like that, and it just does not stick. Sometimes you can get it to work. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look at Uncharted. It's very cheesy, and it's clearly lifted from Indiana Jones. Yeah. But it works. It like they find like a sort of like an avenue for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely like, especially if you're working with content like Spider-Man or anything from the Marvel universe, anything to a comic books, which is just like characters that were invented in the 50s that have like spandex things on, you know, like there's only so much you can like deviate away from that. But if you like try and reinvent that, man, you've got a hill to climb there, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's tough.
It is tough. Making games is tough. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
Yeah, and a lot of these mistakes have come from writing though. That's the thing. It's not even the game itself. It's just very much the world building and stuff. Shame. Yeah,
and does that start? You can probably say more about AAA wise, like because you know, I take narrative very seriously, and that's the first thing I've started doing on Focus Find to redo it. It's the narrative, because it's the most important thing for my particular game. Does narrative have to get started and thought about and nailed straight away with AAA as well?
Depends on the game. What I can say is like people think that narrative is just done at the beginning and then it's sort of left. Like it's done in the beginning and then like you stick to it for the rest of the game. It's genuinely not the case. Same thing for concept art as well. It is constantly getting worked on, constantly. It's the last minute. Like, because you were mentioning before, like in the 6 months of production, in the last 6 months of production, you get people called closers come in to games. And it's people that haven't been on the project. They come in and they assess everything. And they're like, this is bad. This is really bad. You need to change this. This doesn't make sense. Fix this. Get this game out the door. And like they come in and they're really important. Like you need them people to come in and do that. Because like everyone else on the project has got tunnel vision. They don't really know how to like bring it to the finish line. But there's people with the outside perspective who are specialized as closers, like they come in and figure that sort of stuff out. But even then, as like you get closers come in and say, the story doesn't make sense at this point, so the narrative needs to change now. And that's absolutely happened. Like it happened on Watch Dogs. Like the narrative like the end of that game completely changed in the closing stages. And it was just like this. Everyone was like, oh crap, like how do we fix this? But they figured it out. Like they got like a narrative that actually completely worked and it was great. But
yeah, I liked it.
I'm not saying the game is great. I'm just sort of saying like the process of them figuring it out was a good sort of great process for them to actually go through that. So like, yeah, in terms of narrative, it's forever changing. It's forever getting worked on. So it's not like it's always good to get your narrative sorted out as early as possible, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it never stops.
Oh, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if I can figure out if I can carry on that, take the best practice and with Focus Find and keep working on the narrative all the way through.
You probably will. You'll at least be like tweaking the dialogue constantly.
Yeah. Every time I look at it, I do. So if I just keep looking at it, then that's going to be happening.
Yeah, imagine that for another year. That's
okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Brace yourself. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah. So yeah, what else did you want to tackle? Lance Reddick or The Last of Us?
Do The Last of Us. Get that out of the way.
Yeah. So The Last of Us, they've made a TV show. Did you hear?
Have they? I heard it was all right though.
Yeah. You've not seen it. You've not seen it. I have
not seen it. No, I've been dodging this bullet so far.
It's finished now. So they've done season 1. They've signed on season 2.
And 3 apparently.
Oh, and 3 apparently. Oh, okay. And I know Bella Ramsey is going to be back for season 2. So I've enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Did you finish the whole thing?
I finished the whole thing, and I think it's some of the best TV I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Some standout episodes are just, I couldn't fault it. Some, and I'm very critical. I'm the sort of person that was like, I love this thing. Here's what I would change, but I still love this thing.
Right.
That's kind of me being I guess a creative indie. I can't stop saying indie dev, just game developer. I'm a game developer, and therefore I have criticisms on everything that I love, and very few criticisms for The Last of Us TV show. Like, the writing is very clever. He knew that game inside out, and when they added things or changed things or amended things, it was completely and utterly for a purpose, and it had a result. And when they kept things, it wasn't just a Easter egg wink, like haha. It was because it was perfect in the game, and it worked exactly the same for screen. That usually, and surprise, surprise, that's when they chose to do cutscenes. So when Naughty Dog decided to do cutscenes in the game, those cutscenes tended to work quite well in the show.
Right.
There's some new information which Vin doesn't know. I'm not going to talk about, but I'm glad that they gave viewers a tidbit of new information.
Yeah, they have to, right? Like you can't just do it one for one, because people like me, like I can hold off from watching it because I know what happens, right?
Yes.
That's the thing. I know the ending, I know the beginning, I know the middle.
Yeah.
I vaguely know what's going to happen in each episode. So like me going into it is more of a like I know this, So you've got to sprinkle in that new information, otherwise, like I'm just gonna get 3 episodes in and be like, yeah, I get it. Like like it's not different for me. So
that's interesting that you say that.
It's good.
Because episode 3 is the one the major one that's diverged.
That's the Bill.
That's the
one,
Bill
right?
bottleneck episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Which like, and that makes sense because like there are things in games that you can't elaborate on, right? Like you can't spend entire sections of a game just focus on narrative because like it gets boring for players. Like people want to play a game. They don't want to watch a game.
You can't just keep switching main characters out.
Yeah, stuff like that, right? Like you can't do that in terms of people's like perspective. Like you can't keep switching that out, but like they obviously will do that in season 2 and 3. But it is what it is.
But this is it. This is what I was saying. I could be quite excited because I think they could do a better. I think that because of TV and the way TV is, with what happens in The Last of Us Part 2, I think that can be a more enjoyable TV show than it can be, and I think it can be more enjoyable as a TV show than it can be as a game.
Yeah, it's tough because I mean, over the past week, because since the last episode came out, I haven't seen the last episode, but it's been really fascinating to see people that didn't play the game, watch the show, having the same conversations as what we had 10 years ago, which was about, like, did Joel do the right thing? And it's really weird to see that conversation. You go, what are you talking about? Like, it was like 10 years ago. What are you talking? Oh, yeah, the show.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. And if it's that bad with this, what is it going to be like on the end of episode 1 of season 2? It's going to be a shit show. Excuse my French. It's going to be.
It's going to explode.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty. And I'm kind of like looking at that, and I'm going to look at it as like a sort of test to see how many people just fall off like right after.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Right. Or because they've already said that they want to split season They want to split the second game up into 2 seasons, so it's probably like spoiler alert for Last of Us Part 2, I guess. But probably the whole of season 2 is probably going to cover Ellie's side, and then it's going to switch over to Abby in season 3 and sort of follow her story.
Yeah.
How are people going to feel about that first episode of season 3? You know what I mean? Are they really going to be like, do I really want to watch this? Like with this person? Like this, like, and then by the end of season 3, like being really like just not happy with any of the characters. You know what I mean? Just being like, who am I actually rooting for at this point? Like, is that going to work for screen? It's a little bit different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope that they can figure that out narratively and figure out those plot holes and stuff and try and massage that in a little bit better. So you're actually rooting for both of them by the end of it, right? Because that's what they were trying to do with the second game. It just didn't stick. Because for me personally, like I got to the end of that second game and I was just like, I don't like either of these people anymore. Like I don't like Ellie and I despise Abby. Like I don't like any of these people. Like this, I'm not rooting for anyone. I don't know why I'm playing this. Like it just, I don't like this. This isn't, I'm not feeling like anyone should like achieve or learn anything here. It's just, it's crap. Like I feel it's just depressing to me.
It didn't feel fulfilling, the ending.
Right. So what's that going to do for viewers? Like that'll be an interesting thing to see if they can solve that for like the screen, you know what I mean? Instead of just like gameplay. Cause I know like they'll have a lot more time and like look at the episodes like Bill and stuff, right? Like the way people have been reacting to it. I haven't even seen it, but the way people have reacted to that, like can they do a similar thing for Abby and Ellie and like Abby's father and stuff like that, and really sort of solidify that, and not just doing like weird cutscenes where Abby's father saves the zebra or whatever. It's like, come on, like this is cheese, man. Like this is not good. It's really on the nose. It's not well done whatsoever. Could have done so much more with it. And just them moments, and they do the same thing with Ellie and Joel, but at least you know who Joel is, right? Like you have this connection with him. But like I could complain about part 2 all day, but like how they do that in the seasons, it'll be really interesting to see if they can fix that, because it might actually get me back on board with the series. Because now, if someone was to ask me like, hey, are you excited for part 3, the game, I'm just like, no, I don't care, like at all. Like I'm not interested in it whatsoever. Like I might not even play it yet. It really depends like how people react to it and stuff. Yeah. They have to do some serious changes to really bring that back for me personally. And it's just, I'm curious to see how many people are going to react that way for the series as well. But it sounds like they're making a good start. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm hopeful that the writing can, where they make change, because they will make changes, because you can't just do it, scene for scene. Right. Where they make changes, it does it for the right reasons and it to work on the screen. And I think based on what I've seen on part 1, The Last of Us, series 1 of the TV show, I have faith in the writers to be able to deliver something which is, to me, an improvement. So I'm at least hopeful that series 2 is going to be an improvement on the first part of part 2 of the video game. I have faith that the writers are going to improve it. It's going to be tough. I would have loved to have been a writer on the part 1. Yeah. If I had to if you said to me, Chris, you've got to write, The Last of Us Part 2 for TV, I'd be like, yeah. I mean, where do you even start, right? It's like the end of episode 1 is just going to be, So there's going to be some comments. Let's just say, yes. Yeah, it was really funny. I saw a news article on BBC News like a week ago, and it's the headline was "What to Expect from Last of Us Season 2," and it was just like depression. You can expect depression. Like it's not a fun time, guys. Like it's not going to be like Ellie pulling out a joke book and saying funny quips anymore. Like them times are gone. Oh yeah, no more joke books. Right. Ugh. Yeah. Brutal. Yeah, it's gonna be tough, and like I said, I'm really curious to see how many people just completely fall off the bandwagon after that first episode. Just be like, what the hell are they gonna do now? Yeah, Gonna be interesting. Indeed. So that was The Last of Us, and then yes, we did mention the sad news. Lance Reddick passed away, age 60. Indeed. He was a film, TV, and video game actor. Did a lot of video games. Like, I think people have realized that over the last couple of days, just how damn much that man was in.
Yeah. It did Destiny. The big ones are like Destiny, Horizon.
Yeah, for the most Silas, was it?
Silas.
Silence. I can't remember his name.
I can't remember now. Silas.
Yeah. I can always remember his lines. That's the thing, because he's got such an iconic voice.
Yeah.
Like saying to my wife is like, oh, so-and-so's died. And it's like, I can't remember his last name. What was his last name again?
Reddick.
Lance Reddick. I said, yeah, Lance Reddick's died. And she was like, who? Like, she had no idea who he was. But because she's watched me play so many video games over the years,
yeah,
I was like, oh, he was in Destiny. And she's like, which one? I was like, they always do. And she was like, no, not that guy. I love his voice. Yeah. It's just like she automatically knew, because he's got such an iconic voice. It's a massive shame, because he probably would have carried on making video game stuff for many more years to come.
Yeah. He had such a nice voice. Like, really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like TV, like he did TV shows and films. So
yeah, he was in The Wire. You know what I mean? Like,
he was in The Wire. He was in John Wick. He was Sharon.
He was the what's called the head of house at the Continental.
Yeah.
John Wick. I think there's a movie about to come out, or like it was due to come out like soon about the Continental, just about that, instead of just like within the John Wick universe.
Yeah, that's this year.
It might have already been filming.
Yeah, chapter 4. So that'd be.
No, that's just chapter 4. Like there's a spin-off movie about the Continental. So I don't know if they filmed it or not yet, but yeah, it'd be a shame if it hadn't, because it's such an iconic part of it, being the head of house of it. Yeah, or the concierge. Sorry, it's the better word.
Oh yeah, Ballerina, to be announced. Yeah, so he's in that.
Yeah,
it's called Ballerina. Damn.
Brutal. Yeah. And only at 60, you know what I mean? Like, that is way too young. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a fun time. And he was in The Fringe, and he did some like cartoon stuff as well. So like Avengers cartoon stuff. Tron Uprising. Yeah. He did Rick and Morty bit part. Resident Evil, of course.
Yeah. Condolences to his family, of course. I mean, sucks for the video games industry, especially. Like, this is a video game podcast, and like hearing about this, it was kind of like, man, we're getting to that point now where, you know, like the industry is getting old enough where people are starting to unfortunately pass away, and we're losing like iconic voices from characters that we know. Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's weird, because it's
still a young industry, right?
It's still a young industry, and the voice actors have been starting to get more prolific. Mm-hmm. And so then when they start to die, that's going to be something that the video games industry is going to have to get used to.
Yeah, and even voice acted games, right? Because they've really only come into prominence over the past sort of 20 years, if that.
Yeah.
You know? Like, we've had voice acted games like for the past like 35 or something. Don't get me wrong. It's become like a serious gig, like in the past sort of 15 years, I would say.
Yeah. Well, like Troy Baker, like I didn't
right.
I didn't know who he was. I'd heard him a million times in games, but it isn't until the last sort of decade that he's become a person that I know his name, and I listen to his podcast, and if he, you know, I'll watch his Instagram feed, and there will be a day when Troy Baker passes away, and like, will we be around for that? You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird thing to think about. Like, I was thinking about that the other day, and like, you get voice actors come and go all the time, like for like they change professions or whatever. It's like a David Hayter, right? Like the dude that did a Metal Gear Solid. Yeah.
Like played Solid Snake. It's kind of like, he does voice acting still, but he's mostly like a director role now. Like he wrote the screenplay for like one of the X-Men movies. You know, like it's just a weird thing. Like, people like shift off to different industries all the time, but it's one thing them like sort of changing paths, and then there's them passing away. You know, like it's something that they can never return to, and it's a massive shame. Yeah,
it's gonna be a weird thing to be part of that's going to be part of, you know, the games industry, and like probably part of this podcast. We'll have to talk about prolific voice actors that pass on.
Yeah, I mean, it's we are in that stage of making video games where we're in the silent movie era right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the like words on the screen. People like that frame rates being too high and stuff. That's where we are right now, right? Like we might have just gotten sound sort of thing. Like and Singing in the Rain just came out. We've got a long way to go before we get to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, people. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're talking about. And that's how young this industry is. And it's something that I often forget about. Like I constantly forget about that. But just even in terms of acceptance by like the general public and stuff, like, but it helps when you have voice actors that when you have stars from like things like The Wire and John Wick and stuff that sort of lend their voice to these things. And you get obviously like Keanu Reeves and Cyberpunk, and you know, you get people that are starting to look at video games and taking it a little bit more seriously. And it's a shame when they're no longer around to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it makes you think how, you know, the creative ways that like film and TV deal with stars passing on, like they have to address that.
Yeah.
Are they going to take the same lessons for video games and address that when the characters that they're voicing on an ongoing series pass on? Yeah. So like with Horizon, there's going to be another Horizon game. It's kind of obvious the way the last one was sort of left off. So how are they going to address that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it, like, and I know there's already laws like placed down in the movie industry for like likeness rights and stuff like that, like between different films. But yeah, that's tough. Like, how do you even reconcile that? I'm not even sure. Like, yeah, I have no clue. And this is the thing. That's why you emphasize like we're a young industry, because we need to figure these things out. Like as sort of time goes on, probably a good chance that they're probably just gonna, unfortunately, like sunset the character and bring in a new villain of some kind into Horizon, right?
Yeah,
like
that makes
probably
the most sense. Just
yeah, it's the most elegant way, I would say.
Yeah,
but you do want to nod back to it at some point and sort of pay homage to it, you know, because yeah. So
it was a really good villain.
Oh, he had the voice for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like that, I you know, I sympathize, empathize. I want to, you know, I kind of get where he's coming from, like kind of villain, like that kind of. Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Oh, this is good, like that kind of villain. Yeah. No, that's a shame.
Yeah,
I guess we've been doing this like about an hour now.
Yeah, it's been about 57 minutes. Ooh, look at this. We might actually do a full hour normally.
Whoa.
And I'll check those out.
We can wrap up. Where can we find your social media and things, Vin, with the things that you might be working on soon?
Yeah, I guess. Like, yeah, just follow me in the normal places, which is at Hillthought Games on Twitter. Like, you'll probably find most of my indie game stuff there, but also I talk a lot of nonsense on there. But yeah, if you also want to follow the game on TikTok, you can. Again, at Hillthought Games. Instagram, at Hillthought Games. Obviously, you can wishlist Long Gone on Steam. I'd really, really appreciate that. Because I know, the game is doing pretty, like the wishlists are kind of nuts right now. Like I'm at like 11,000 wishlists, which I was not expecting to ever get to this. So I better carry on making it at some point, right? Like that'll be good. That'll be good. I need to stop moving so much. But anyway, Hillthought Games. Like Google that, you will find me. I am the herpes of the internet. You can't get rid of me. So just Google that and you will find me. Yeah. How about you, Chris?
It's kind of the same with Acrylic Pixel and Focus Find. So if you Google Acrylic Pixel, you should come up with either my Twitter or my LinkedIn or my Instagram or you can wishlist Focus Find on Steam. And yeah, that would help me out. I'm on about 95 wish lists, so
progress.
Yeah, getting there.
No, well, the thing is, like once you get to like 100, I think it is, you get put in a separate pool. So you're actually like you're at the precipice to be put into the next bucket.
That's good. So
it's progress, man.
Yeah,
it's progress.
Yeah, I haven't checked actually for a few days, so yeah, I'll check. And yeah,
go on there. You got 10,000.
Yeah. I should say, Yasmin, we had on the show, she did a stream of the Yagman X. She did a stream of Focus Find, like the demo that I have of like the old legacy version of Focus Find, because it's going to look totally different.
Right.
And she did a stream, so that was really cool. So that was bizarre and sweet and just Like
That's
I'd
nice,
forgotten that I'd sent her a key, and then she just posted on Twitter that she was going to do a stream of it. So that was kind of fun. So you can check her out and check out the stream. I think it's on a YouTube channel.
Yeah, she was great as well. Like I'm glad that she's finding some success in what she's doing as well.
Yeah. So, and I said we should have her on again, but like everything's really, really up in the air with you in a country.
Yeah, the forever like changing background of Vin Hill. Like this is my life apparently. But yeah, like to give some context to this, by the way, real quick, because I know someone might be wondering about it. I'm in between visas right now, and I'm currently back in the UK for a little bit, and then moving back over to the US once the visa comes through. But it's going to be, unfortunately, like this background is going to keep changing. Might just buy a green screen that can unfold.
Yeah,
that might be
stop
the easier
people
thing to
guessing.
Do. Right. Just put the same background and it doesn't matter where I am. I'm like, hey, Oh well.
So yeah, eventually this year we'll be able to get a picture of the both of us in the same place at the same time. That'd be crazy.
This is true. Yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I hope.
Yeah. Stay tuned. So if we miss a podcast episode, that might be because we're out and about.
Yeah, doing stuff, being humans,
not podcasting.
Right. I don't know why I did that, but here we are.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But that being said, if you like what you listen to, please subscribe to the podcast. If it's on YouTube, if it's on your podcast services, give us a review or something. That'd be nice.
Give us a like, give us a comment. Tell a friend as well.
Yeah.
Like, listen to these two idiots. They seem to kind of not know what they're talking about, but I enjoy listening to them.
They have
we really appreciate it.
Interesting topics of discussion.
That's debatable, but yeah. Anyway, but until next time, we'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Outro music. Dun, 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 dun. Probably be able to fluidly interrupt each other now.
That's going to be weird. I'm so used to you just being really rude and cutting me off.
And now I am just being rude because of
because it will happen.
Right, exactly.